What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Bumblebee. I'm your host, Taylor McWaters.
And I'm your other host, Bree Room.
In past videos, we've been talking about origins of historical figures. We've been looking at the Aztecs, the Mayans. We've been kind of roasting everybody, so for today's list, we have to go and talk about some mysteries about
Jesus Christ.
Our boy, J-Bones. Also, we're not really trying to rip on religion here. We're just trying to find some mysteries and then talk about them. So
JC's a cool guy. We gotta spit some facts and some mysteries and all of the above.
Don't huck Bibles at us. We're just hanging out.
Please.
With that being said, here are the top 10 mysteries that surround Jesus. Let's do it.
At number 10, birthday. I would have thought that Jesus' birthday would have been one of the most straightforward things about him in regards to facts about him, but apparently his birthday is one of the biggest mysteries that surround him. Though many people believe that Jesus was born on December 25th, aka Christmas, cause happy birthday Jesus, there's a debate that suggests that the date that a lot of people celebrate as Jesus' birthday is incorrect. In 2008, an astronomer named David Reinecke suggested that the Star of Bethlehem, a celestial event commonly associated with Jesus' birth, may have actually been a phenomenon where the planets Venus and Jupiter came together to form a bright light in the sky. Using computer modeling, David was able to determine that this celestial event took place sometime around June 17th in the year 2 BCE. This means that perhaps Jesus was a Gemini, not a Sagittarius, whatever that means. Other researchers have placed Jesus' birth sometime in October of the year 7 BCE, and others have suggested that Jesus was born sometime in the spring because of the tales of his birth mentioning shepherds watching over their flock on the night that Jesus was born, which is something that would have been done in the spring and not the winter.
Number 9. Where was he born? So we've covered what day he was born, and it turns out Christmas in October sounds pretty awesome. Let's just combine our favorite holidays and get it done with. But now we have to cover the next important topic. Where was he born? Well, according to biblical sources, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. This is widely known at this point, but perhaps it's not completely accurate. The New Testament Gospels don't agree on this. They don't believe Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Some of them don't even mention it once. In fact, some don't mention the Lord at all. Biblical studies are asking why Jesus was called a Nazarene and a Galilean through the New Testament, and with no mention of his birthplace, obviously people will ask questions. Was he born in Nazareth? Well, Philip J. King answered this question in his Biblical Views column. He said the towns of Bethlehem is traditionally Jesus' birthplace, and Nazareth is Jesus' home. It's like when you say you're from the city, but you're not really from the city. You know what I mean?
At number 8, married. Out of the things that we know about Jesus Christ, one thing that remains unsolved is his marital status. Was Jesus married or not? Obviously, they didn't have Tinder back then to meet people, and there was no MySpace top 10 to really give us a clue of who Jesus was close to, so really we only have speculation, theories, and some clues to go off to try and solve the mystery of whether or not Jesus had a wife. Some biblical scholars have suggested that Jesus was married and that his wife was Mary Magdalene, a woman who was frequently mentioned in the New Testament. In the Gospel of Philip, there is evidence to suggest that Jesus was married, as there are words in the manuscript that read, quote, "There were 3 who always walked with the Lord, Mary his mother, her sister, and Magdalene, the one who was called his companion," end quote. On top of that, in a recently discovered scrap of papyrus known as the Gospel of Jesus' Wife, the document contained lines which said, quote, "Jesus said to them, 'My wife,'" end quote. There is no definite proof of whether or not Jesus was married in fact or not, so this remains a mystery.
Number 7. Jesus' body. We haven't found the body of Jesus, of course, thousands of years later. This task is proving to be quite difficult. And according to the Bible, Jesus died but returned after 3 days and then suddenly vanished. His body is said to just not exist anymore. Where's the body? Where did it go? Did someone steal it? Let's talk. In order to preserve a body in the first place for that amount of time, you need to be a pro at mummification, and Romans nor Jews practiced such a thing at that time. So if you did find a tomb, the tomb of Jesus per se, his bones, well, they turned to dust about 100 years after his death, so it would be empty. There's many who believe the body of Jesus was removed from the tomb before Easter Sunday, or like I said, it was stolen. Either way, it was for sure empty. The Romans were in charge of law and order at this time, so there's also a theory where Romans took his body, but there's no motivation there that checks out. Because if they stole a body, they could have brought it out at any time and then halted Christian faith. Did Jesus' disciples take the body as well? Still the biggest mystery right here, folks.
At number 6, crucified. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is seen as one of the most important events in the Christian gospel. According to the gospel, Jesus was crucified at the hands of Pontius Pilate, and the skies darkened for hours afterwards. Some see this event as a miracle or an omen of dark times that lied ahead. Some researchers have tried to explain this phenomenon using astronomy. Some tie the event of Jesus' crucifixion to a solar eclipse that lasted 2 minutes in 29 CE, and others say that a second total eclipse caused the darkness over 4 minutes back in 33 CE. Either way, this phenomenon is still inexplicable and remains yet another mystery.
Number 5. Resurrection. On the third day after his crucifixion, Christ was resurrected. We call this event Easter. It's a major feast day of the church, and these accounts of Christ being reborn can now be found in the 4 Gospels: Mark, Luke, Matthew, and John. In the letters of the Apostle Paul, found in the New Testament, it's again stated that Christ rose from the dead. Now, some are convinced that disciples of the Lord were not telling lies, but even so, Jesus could have been resurrected in a non-physical form. But in Luke 24:39, Jesus himself denied that he was a spirit. He said, "Look at my hands and my feet, it is myself. Touch me and see, a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have." The disciples were also the first non-believers too, Luke 24:11, and these words appealed to them as nonsense and they would not believe in them. The risen Christ appeared to his disciples in the upper room, which was behind locked doors, and then he disappeared in front of their eyes. But how? The resurrection of Jesus Christ, of course, is one of the biggest mysteries.
At number 4, the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin has been highly debated and, dare I say, shrouded in mystery. The shroud is said to have covered Jesus' body after the crucifixion and shows a faint image of a man's face and torso, believed to be Jesus himself. This find has been debated for years, and the more research and testing people do, the more muddled things get. The search for the shroud's authenticity has been going on for decades, and there's still no definitive answer of whether it is real or not, and if the face and torso seen in the shroud really do belong to Jesus as well. The Catholic Church doesn't have a stance on whether or not the shroud is authentic, but science is determined to get to the bottom of this mystery. Carbon dating has suggested that the cloth is less than 8,000 years old, meaning that it may have come from sometime in the Middle Ages. But a study done in 2014 suggested that perhaps an ancient earthquake that affected Jerusalem may have created an ionic image in the shroud, as well as, quote, altered the radiocarbon levels that later suggested that the shroud was a medieval forgery, end quote. Right now, there are more questions to be answered than ever before, so it may be a while before this mystery is solved.
Number 3. Pagan God. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Jesus Christ, many believe, is that he was a pagan god. Typically, Jesus is compared to gods like Horus or Osiris, but deities were also born from a virgin. Deities also referred to themselves as the Son of God. They too performed miracles. They also died and came back. Authors of the book The Jesus Mysteries, Timothy Freak and Peter Gandy, believe that Christianity wasn't this new revelation, and in fact, it was a continuation of paganism, just with a new name. They believe the story of Jesus is not the late tale of a Messiah, but rather a Jewish reworking of pagan myth, particularly the god Osiris Dionysus, which had already been widely known about in the ancient Mediterranean. Osiris Dionysus, born on the same day, before 3 shepherds, offered his followers baptism and then died at Easter. These guys go off in this book, and they blame humans for not understanding ancient spirituality enough to recognize that these were just in fact myths. Retelling older myths to create newer ones, that was normal in the ancient world.
At number 2, walking on water. Perhaps the biggest mystery surrounding Jesus Christ is whether it is true that he really did walk on water. Jesus is said to have performed a number of miracles, but one of his most famous ones was walking on water. People have been trying to explain this phenomenon for ages, but it still remains a mystery. Jesus claimed to have walked on the water of the Sea of Galilee, and research suggests that this might be true, however the water might have been frozen at the time. Researchers have suggested that there might have been a cold snap that caused the freshwater lake to freeze over, and Jesus could have just stood on a floating patch of ice, and this could explain the phenomenon, but it's not exactly confirmed.
And finally, number 1, water into wine. Okay, so now we're getting into some party tricks that Jesus could pull off. The whole walking on water thing is pretty impressive, but when he turns water into wine, okay, now we're talking. But where did this come from? Could he really do that? Make mythological Merlot? On the third day, there was a wedding in Galilee. Jesus was there, and so was his mother Mary. And like most weddings, there was a fair amount of wine spilled. So much so that they ran out. Sounds like a pretty good wedding. There were, however, 6 jars of water nearby, and when some was gifted to the master of the banquet, he was shocked. After all that wine, he said, this was the best of the night, and it was just a jar of water a minute ago. This is mind-blowing. This is one of the biggest things that we talk about when it comes to J-bones. This was one of the earliest signs that revealed his glory. Did Jesus alter the molecular composition of water? Maybe, but was it wine or was it really grape juice? After all that wine that they bragged about drinking, maybe the best wine that was saved for last was actually flavored water and they were in fact hammered. The first sip of water after a night out tastes pretty amazing, so I'd be confused too. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into Bumblebee. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters.
And I've been your other host, Bree Room. Be nice to us in the comments, please.
Yeah, we tried our best. Thanks.